Shalom,
Shalom.
everybody. We do give all honor and all praise again to the Most High. Ahayah and the Son Yashayah and the Holy Spirit for another Bible study. And we do thank the Most High for the opportunity to be here in front of you again. Before I go into the lesson, I want to bring up some quick points that we talked about last night. In this knowledge and understanding the truth, it becomes obvious that this world is lost. Doing whatever they do and believing whatever is put in front of them, oftentimes without a question, which is always dangerous. That's why you should always question everything you hear, especially when someone stands in front of you or sits in front of you with the Bible. So we must understand the effects and the cause results, pretty much the same words there, of what happens to a place once that land or that place is conquered or conquered by people with an agenda to control. Remember, conquerors never conquer to civilize. They always conquer to dominate or to destroy. Okay? A conqueror never, civilization is never brought out of conquest. True civilizations are brought out of peace and understanding and harmony, like what we read in the Bible, between what the Most High did with the kingdom of Israel. So, because when we understand and know what has happened to America since the first Europeans came here 500 years ago, and started to dilute and pollute this earth. Before I want to read something to you, so I'm going to turn off the camera while I get what I want to share with you. Okay, everybody, I'm back. Well, not officially, but I'm back. I'm back. So I just wanted to share this. And we've read from these books again, and I just wanted to give some points before we go into the Bible. And I have a little clip of some video I want to share again. We haven't done that in a long time. This is Christopher Columbus and the African Holocaust. Now, Christopher Columbus did not come here ignorant of the people that were here. Okay? Christopher Columbus had full knowledge of the tribal or the ancestral history of the people that he discovered, or that he came across here, came across when he landed in the West Indies. Now, why did they call it the West Indies? Because they were looking for India. They were looking for Asia. So they weren't looking for America. In fact, they didn't think nothing was here. Well, according to what they tell us, right? They teach you. I don't believe that. I believe they already knew this land was here. They just created a story to make them feel like they discovered a place they didn't discover. All right? So this is Christopher Columbus and the African Holocaust. It should be right here. Okay. I want to read these quick bullet points, and I'll save this for before we close. And this is the Willie Lynch letter. Very good to understand how the Europeans programmed the slaves when they had them in physical chattel bondage, or what people classify as physical chattel bondage. There's many different types of slavery you can have someone in. Slavery just does not entail having someone on a plantation with a whip cracking over their head. Okay, that's everything changes with time, people. This is the myth of a people with waiting in darkness for another people to bring them to light. In most countries where the Europeans invaded, they influenced, they put out the light of local civilizations and cultures and destroyed civilizations. Civilizations were old before Europeans were born. So the European, that's one thing, that's a major thing. If you've ever heard, Columbus is credited with discovering America, right? When Columbus did not discover America, Columbus stumbled across America knowing what was here, and subsequently conquered this land, annihilated the original Hebraic cultures of the Indians that were here. Okay, right? So Columbus didn't discover nothing. As what I just read said, oftentimes Europeans put out the light of civilizations so they could be recognized as the original. That's what they do in media when they make everything look like everything's white all over the earth, when they know predominantly Europe wasn't even all white. All throughout European history, Europe has been ruled by different races of people, not only white people. Predominantly, actually, they don't even tell you that Europeans had to conquer Europe. White people had to conquer Europe originally because Japhetic black people ruled Europe. The son of Noah, Japheth, his children went into the mountains, and they went into Eurasia and into Europe originally. So they were the original Europeans, black Japhetic people. Then Esau came along, the father of the Caucasian race, after he was kicked out by his he got disappointed, and he got angry with his brother. He fled up into the mountains. That's where we get the caveman stories from. Originally, Europeans are the original cavemen. They didn't have a land. God didn't give them a land. So they went into the mountains.
The fatness of the earth, right?
So, point number 2, this is something they teach us they educate you into believing. A myth of a people without a legitimate God. Europeans made no serious attempt to understand the religious cultures of non-European people wherever they went in the world. If their God concept was not in agreement with the Europeans assumed they had no God worthy of worship. So, what's that in saying? Basically, if your God wasn't a Nordic white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, or brown-haired, white-skinned figure, the Europeans didn't want to worship it. So they would teach you that God looks like them. Point, and I'll skip. Okay. The myth of an invader and conqueror as civilizer, or one who brings civilization. Civilization anywhere and any time in mankind's history through invasion and conquest. The invader and the conqueror spreads his way of life at the expense of victims and generally destroys civilization in the name of civilization. So what does that mean? In the European mindset, for them to establish a race or establish a country, they must wipe out the original inhabitant, which oftentimes is much darker than they are, or black. Hey. So what they must do then, once they exterminate or bring the original population down to a level where they can manage it, they set themselves up as the original people who cannot produce anything other than what they are. To have other colors of people, you must start out with a darker, and they get progressively lighter, right?
Yeah.
So Before we go into scriptures, I just wanted to bring that out and inform you with that. I want to share screen now. And and go into a little of this.
Mighty clean, authorized society all over a dime. Turn ice cream, living in the winter tight jeans. Turn women, they idols, I know when the most high see. Spiritual lays out in the physical. Mercedes teaching sex ed, the kids before middle principles, suppress a palette, shape all reality. Happy me, jazz, it a lot of makes sense. Here's another baby, she's gone tomorrow, but all that she wants. Here's another baby.
So we're gonna listen to a little of this, everybody. Then we'll
Shalom.
Just before we listen to this, I want everyone to turn to Psalms 83. So we're there already. So I'll turn there. Then we'll Psalms 83. So we're there already. All right. So we can read that after we listen to the brother. So we're gonna share some of this video I just discovered on YouTube. Then we will, excuse me, go into
Shalom Israel. It's your Aunt G Militia coming at you for a new edition of Hebrew Tribes channel. First off and foremost, giving all praises. That's Ahayah, Ahayah. That's the I am that I am of Exodus 3:14. Through the name of Yashayah. That's Yashayah, my Savior. That's Matthew 21:9. Hosanna, Yashayah. Through the Holy Spirit, Kakamawa, which is wisdom. That's Proverbs 8. Coming at you with another lesson. This time we're getting into hypersexualization, lovers, friends, and a breakdown of the household. Because what happens is we live in a society ran by Satanists, and what people always like to just throw out is that what Satanists do, or those living for this world do, is they turn everything the Most High gave us upside down. And us speaking directly to Israel, so he's gonna put his philosophies, theologies, and everything he believes upon Israel, because he does not want the chosen seed to prosper in this world, man. So not to say that other nations aren't doing this as well, but he has Israel doing this, and he put forth programs and initiatives to make sure that we go off from his order of the household. This is why you see relationships going crazy. This is why you see all these things going crazy. So this one, I don't want to do no long intro, and get right into it.
Here's another baby, she's gone tomorrow, but all that she wants. Here's another baby, all that she wants. Here's another baby, she's gone tomorrow, but all that she wants.
Okay, so we're gonna start off with the man, section 1. The man, Ahab, the Ahab spirit, simping for the sex. Because what happens is what a lot of men fall to is usually two different things. They either fall to fornication or anger. It's usually one of the two. Those are the two main sins of man. Speaking of men, of the male species. 1 Corinthians 7:2-4, 10-11. Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. let the husband render unto the wife due benevolence, and likewise also the wife unto the husband. The wife hath not power of her own body, but the husband. And likewise also the husband hath not power of his own body, but the wife. And unto the married I command, yet not I, but the Most High, let not the wife depart from her husband. But and if she depart, let her remain unmarried or be reconciled to her husband, and let not the husband put away his wife. This is something brothers in Israel skip right over. And before I even get into everything, I want to try a quick disclaimer. This is going to be a hard-hitting expose on how they have us operating in our relationships, especially as Israel. So when I say blacks, I'm not just talking about Judah. Because if you feel like you're from the descendants of the tribe of Israel and you do your historical research and the accuracy of where we were scattered to, you go back far enough, your ancestors were black. Yes, and that really goes for even the heathen and the Gentiles. They go back far enough. So, but in my terminology to make this, because I don't want to take all day trying to explain this, if you hear me say black, I'm referring to Israel, okay? But this is what happens because you have men that love to get to the sex part, the relations part, but we don't too much focus on the things like outside of that. Like it says, unto the wife due benevolence. That means you got to honor your wife. You can't just have your wife and put your feet all over and stomp on her. Just because men are supposed to rule, there's a way we're supposed to rule, and I'm going to break that down here. Because a lot of men, they've probably been hurt by a woman or by women. They haven't dealt with that pain. They dealt with a certain type of female, and now they're putting that stereotype on all females, especially the Israelite sisters. But that's not right, man. That's not right by the scriptures. I'm going to prove it, okay? Because a lot of men will be like, "Oh, I just want to sleep around. I just want to do my thing. I'm grown." But people change from those sexual liaisons. You can't believe that you can go out and have sex with all these multiple people and come back being the same. Like, sex is the most intimate act you can share with somebody on this planet. It's the most intimate act. This is why rape victims are so damaged by what happened, and it takes them a while to work through that if they do. Because a lot of times, some of them can't, and they'll like the opposite. I mean, they'll like the same sex. They won't deal with the opposite sex, or they'll be whoremongers. I mean, you name it, because they was molested or raped when they were young. And y'all gotta understand, as men, this sex thing is big. You can't go out and say I'm gonna sleep with 100 harlots and be the same person I was before I did. There's such thing as sexually transmitted demons, y'all. So let's get this. Leviticus 21:7. Thou shalt not take a wife that is a whore or profane, neither shall they take a woman put away from her husband, for he is holy unto his alahayah, or his power. Because what happens is, the society teaches that when you separate, as in a marriage, y'all married, y'all are married, and you separate. This society teaches you can go sleep around. Because you're separated. How many stories have you heard? Oh, I'm sleeping with this woman, I'm sleeping with this dude, or a woman will say that and be like, oh, well, he's separated. No, he's still married. He's separated, but he's still married. That's why the Apostle Paul wrote, let her be reconciled back to her husband. Couples go through things. You're going to go through something. I don't care who you with. Y'all going to go through something. And the thing about it is, if y'all not strong enough to get through that, then y'all have to consult the Father, because there's only one reason to break up, and that's adultery / fornication, a sexual nature. Other than that, there's no, of course, the person just leaves. You can't do nothing about that. But you're supposed to be married and stay married, according to the law. 1 Kings 19:1, 10, and 18. Now we're going to get into Ahab. A lot of brothers dealing with the Ahab spirit. And Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done, and withal how he had slain all the prophets with the sword. And he said, I have been very jealous for the Most High power of hosts, For the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thine altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword. So the children of Israel were slaying the prophets, the ones that were speaking to do the right thing. Okay, you're going to see whose power they were under is the power of a woman named Jezebel, Ahab's wife. And I, even I only am left, and they seek my life to take it away. Yet I have left me 7,000 in Israel, all the knees which have not bowed unto Baal, and every mouth which has not kissed him. So you see the connection between dealing with wicked women and dealing with idolatry. We're going to touch it heavy in here. I'm not going to put the cart before the horse, but when people are dealing with a wicked woman, they're dealing with holidays. They're dealing with the Christian church. We're going to touch some things about that. They're dealing with another religion that enslaved our people, whether it's Islam, Hinduism, you name it, right? Okay? This is what happens, okay? Because you're not dealing with what your forefathers were originally given, like Ahab was. He wasn't dealing with what we were originally given.
Okay. So that's very good information. And that's true. We have been over-sexualized as the media has trained you up from a child in one way or the other to be sexual, and to believe sex is the highest form of existence. When sex is not. Sex is just sex. No, I mean, sex isn't just sex. Sex is not the end-all and be-all of anything.
The part.
In other words, what I'm trying to say is when you're growing up and you're watching TV, that's why a lot of times parents are their own children's downfall, because a lot of times parents just let their kids watch whatever, right? Not understanding what images their children see becomes real to them, right? So if you're letting your children watch things with women half naked, that, say you have two opposite sex children, right? That your daughter is going to start to believe that dressing a certain way will get her certain things, will get her men and attention. So then you wonder why when she turns 14, she wants to dress like she ain't got no sense, right?
Like she's 18 years old.
Well, like she's a whore. Mm-hmm. Because you let her from a little child grow up watching whores on television. So that's the fruit. The fruit does not fall
off the tree.
Thank you. So Psalms 83.
In the beginning, you want me to read?
I'll read verse 1. Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. Read.
For lo, thy enemies make
a tumult,
and they that hate thee have lifted up the head.
So how do people hate God other than, by setting up a society that disrespects him? They have a strategic war plan against a people. Okay? The people.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 3.
They have taken crafty counsel against thy people.
All people.
Thy people.
All people.
Thy people.
All people.
Thy people.
So the Bible is telling us that there is a certain people on the earth, not everybody, that these people have taken certain or crafty or careful counsel against. meaning they come together secretly and plot against a people on how they can keep them controlled, managed, and against thy hidden ones. Read.
They have said, "Come and let us cut them off from living being a nation."
Let us cut them off from being a what?
Nation.
So they understand by keeping a certain group of people separated or not knowing that they are a nation, that
the name of Israel may no more be remembered.
So we understand that these are a people that so these are, you know how Christ said a nation divided against itself cannot stand? So when you divide a family, they can't stand. Now, when you take a nation of people for 400 years and program them not to really love one another, what do you get a controlled people. And this is speaking about the children of Israel, who are the Negroes and the Latinos. And how do we, because those are the only people, when you look around the earth, that are divided or are not, have no knowledge of nationhood. Because any European person can go back to a nation where they descend from and have instant connection to history, culture, food, religions, anything. And the Arab people have distinct cultural values, distinct spiritual values that make them distinct or separate. That when you notice them, you look at one of them, you know that's an Arab, because the way they dress, the way they worship, whatever. And I'm not saying worship what they worship. You look at a Japanese person, they go, or an Asian person, they can go to whatever Asian country they descend from and have distinct food, culture, dress code. But when you get to the Negroes and Latinos, they really don't have something that is distinct to themselves. Okay? Meaning, when I say distinct, that they can really, in America, claim that it comes from them, right? Their music that they listen to really doesn't come from them. It comes from white people using them to make money off of them. The athletics, the way they're used, is only propagated because of white owners who draft them. Not saying that they are supremely talented, but they wouldn't have been recognized except for those white people who own them. And I'm not saying that to disparage anybody. That's just the way. That's the way that they look at it in their realm. How can I use this person to make money off of them? Right? Verse 5.
For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee.
So they are together with a consent, and they are confederate against you. What does that mean? You've heard of we know what a confederacy is, right? It's a union. So they are consulted together with a union against you. So the nations of the earth, starting with Esau and Ishmael. Now, why does it, in verse 6, why does it start with Esau and Ishmael? Because was hurt or who was casted or rejected in
Genesis.
in Genesis? Ishmael was rejected by
Abraham.
and Esau was rejected by
Isaac.
So based on that spirit of hatred through rejection, they have had a continual hatred of their brother or their brother and their brother, Isaac and Jacob, right? That's Ishmael's brother was Isaac. Ishmael's the father of the Arab nations who have a secret hatred against the black people. And Esau is the father of the Caucasian race, which at the top has a clear public hatred of black people. That's not even a hidden fact. That's a known fact. They don't hide the fact they hate black people, the government. I mean, that's not a secret. And again, why I say not all, this isn't all Arabs. All Arabs and all white people don't dislike black people. There's a certain group of white people that have power and have power only because they have taken advantage of the system that Columbus and all these European conquerors set up here, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the only reason they have power. Let's go to Psalms chapter 50, 50 verse 16, I think.
Yeah.
50 verse 16.
50, 16.
Right? You got it?
Mm-hmm.
Read.
But unto the wicked, Ahayah, Most High Power, saith, what hath thou to do to declare my statutes, or that thou shouldest take my covenant in thy mouth?
So what does this mean? This means God is saying to these nations, who told you to take the book that I wrote through my people and take it all over the world and establish a religion with it that the Bible doesn't even mention religion? Who told you to set up churches and theological seminaries when I didn't give you the understanding of this book? Who told you to set up a man in Rome and call him the Pope and make him believe, as the whole earth believes that he speaks for me? Who told you to come over to a nation, slaughter my people, and establish a nation, and to use it to pollute the earth with a Roman religion of Christianity? Okay? I didn't tell you to do that, so I'm not dealing with your religion. I deal with my people and all those else who will deal with me in spirit and truth. I will deal with. The Most High is not a respecter of people. He is a respecter of nations. God will receive any person who believes on him and his son, regardless of the nation, as long as they deal with him in spirit and in truth and in honesty. If you are not willing to deal with him honestly, then he won't deal with you. Right?
Yep.
Is that clear?
Yes.
17.
Seest thou hatest instruction?
So how does Esau show that he hates the instruction of the Bible? He teaches you through his religion that half the Bible doesn't matter. Just the New Testament matters. Right? The old covenant is done away with. Don't follow the law. Don't read the law. Just focus on the New Testament. That is not it. Read.
And casteth My word.
So they teach the people that listen to them to ignore half the Bible. That's why a lot of Christians don't even know there's an Old Testament or what's in it, because they're programmed, they're taught purposely through theological pastors who are deceived themselves not to worry about the history. Because if they taught you to worry about the history in the Old Testament, a lot of problems would come up and questions would start coming up that they don't want to answer. Not that they can't answer, they're not supposed to answer, because it would destroy the fabric of their white supremacist religion. Go to Psalm 64. 64.
Verse.
And after we read this, I'm gonna read something. I'm gonna read the Willie Lynch letter, some stuff I want. Then we'll close. So Psalm 64, verse 2.
Okay. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the instruction of the workers of iniquity. Who wet their tongues like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words.
So how do they bend their bows and shoot their now this is all what we call symbolic poetry. How do the nations use their mouths against the Israelites? They publish false news, and they use fake media to portray the children of Israel negatively. So that makes other people who don't know better dislike the Negro and the Latinos.
Hello? Hello?
Verse 4.
Hello?
That they may shoot in secret at the perfect. See, all this that's why America has secrets. What do you think the purpose of what people may hear as secret societies, like the Freemasons and the Illuminati? What do you think their real purpose is? To keep all the secret knowledge, the true knowledge, hidden, and they give the public all the stupid knowledge they know will keep the public apathetic or in a state of not wanting to know anything more than what they're given through television. That they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly do they shoot and fear not. Why? Verse 5.
They encourage themselves in an evil manner.
So they encourage themselves in an evil manner.
They commune or lay snares.
So they come together privately to do evil, and they commune of lying traps secretly. So all these secret societies like the Illuminati, Freemasons, Skull and Bones, all their agenda is really seek and destroy our brother Jacob, the Negro, and the Hispanics. Kill them off any way we can, whether it be drugs, so-called race-on-race crime, alcohol, military, whatever we can do, we must annihilate our brother. Read.
Say, who shall see them?
So, because we've done so good at hiding our agenda, we don't expect anyone to discover us. Read.
They search out iniquity.
So they use all their money, the bankers, to search out iniquity or sin. Why? So what, brothers and sisters, are the agenda, true agenda behind all these wars? Other than oil, in the most wars in the Middle East, why did we have to go into Asia in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Saudi Arabia? What other thing do they have in those regions of the earth? Drugs, morphine, cocaine, heroin, opium, right? So they start these wars as a co-op to get illicit through the CIA. So the CIA goes over there, gets the drugs, right? Sends it back to the US, distributes it to the FBI, and the FBI plants it in the ghetto. Okay? So they
accomplish a diligent.
Now that doesn't only mean drugs.
Both the inward thoughts of every.
They spend billions of dollars to hide. Both the inward thought of them and the heart is deep. Why? Deeply evil. Why? Because they take all their time and money to really do one thing. Right? So. No. That is it. Before I close, brothers and sisters, I'm going to look at GOCC. I want to read something out of here. The Willie Lynch letter, which is a good read. It's short, but it's very informational for those of you who are interested in knowing. Now, Willie Lynch was a slave owner in the West Indies, so he wrote a letter to the American Southern slave owners on how best to keep their slaves, or the Israelites they had in slavery, content or docile. Okay.
Guess we're gonna have tea, right?
After the hour.
You know.
Yeah. That's cool.
So our experts have warned us about a possibility of a phenomenon occurring. For they say that the mind has a strong drive to correct and recorrect itself over a period of time if it can touch some substantial historical base. So the slave masters knew that something would end up happening that would awaken their slaves. So this has always been the great fear ever since the first slave was put here, came off the slave ships at Jamestown in 1619, which is 400 years next year. Okay? So some substantial original historical base. So they understood that the best way to condition you is to remove the history, your history, so we can create a condition of dissidence, of historical dissidence, or lack of knowledge of self. Because how do you know who you are? Through your history, through your history of your people. So if you don't have any prior knowledge that you were enslaved, you will always somehow relive that in your life, whether you know it or not. Okay. And they advised us the best way to deal with this phenomenon is to shave off the brute's mental history to create a multiplicity of phenomenon and illusions. So, okay, what does this mean? If I want to keep these people in my system and serving me, I'll make sure I make them believe that God looks like me. I'll give them a religion that I make sure I rule at the top, and they can only really be under me, even in religion. Right? So I'll allow them to have their own pastors, as long as those pastors are taught by me. Even if they don't come through me, through my seminaries, they'll most likely grow up in a church and become pastors. Why? So either way, I got them where I want them, because they'll never find out what the Bible teaches about who they are as a people. So if I don't even have to really worry about it. If some of them awake, they awake. It won't eventually affect everybody at once, because so many of them are distracted and docile and apathetic towards the truth that it won't even matter if a couple hundred of them wake up. I'll still control the vast majority of them. That is the mind of the American government that was passed. The programming and the system was passed down from president to president to president to president to president. It's generational. Now, through Christ, you can be delivered. Through knowledge of self, you can be delivered from the spiritual separation. But physically, you will still be in this nation. You are still subject to racism. See. Okay, you can put those away. And so I think that was very good and clear tonight. It's basic. If you understand, if you want to know and understand, you'll understand. We do thank and praise the Most High again. Ahayah, bahashem, Yashayah, Ruach Kudash, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, for this opportunity to be in front of you. And we say Shalom.
Shalom.